Today in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what to check when your car starts overheating in summer, before you panic, before you waste money, and before someone sells you a repair you may not even need. Because here is the truth. When that temperature gauge starts climbing, most drivers make the problem worse in the first 5 minutes. They keep driving. They open the hood too quickly. They pour water into the wrong place. They open the radiator cap while the system is still hot. Or they assume the engine is already destroyed and call a tow truck without checking the basic things first. But an overheating car is not always a blown head gasket. It is not always a bad engine, and it is not always a $1,000 repair. Sometimes it is low coolant. Sometimes it is a loose cap. Sometimes it is a cooling fan that is not turning on. Sometimes it is a stuck thermostat. Sometimes it is a clogged radiator. Sometimes it is one cracked hose that you can spot in 30 seconds. So in this video, I am going to walk you through a real mechanic-style diagnosis, step by step. No fake hack, no magic liquid, no guessing. Just clear checks that help you understand what is happening, what you can safely do yourself, and when you should stop and tow the car instead of risking engine damage. And stay until the end, because I will show you the simple decision test. When it is safe to continue driving, when it is safe to top off coolant, and when driving even one more mile can destroy your engine. First, let's talk about what overheating actually means. Your engine creates a huge amount of heat. That is normal. The cooling system's job is to move that heat away from the engine and release it through the radiator. Coolant moves through the engine, absorbs heat, travels to the radiator, cools down, then cycles back again. That system depends on several parts working together. Coolant, radiator, thermostat, water pump, hoses, radiator cap, cooling fans, temperature sensors, and sometimes the heater core. If just one part fails, the temperature can start climbing. But before you touch anything, the first solution is safety. If you see the temperature gauge moving toward hot, or you see a red temperature warning, or you see steam from under the hood, do not ignore it. Turn off the air conditioning immediately. The AC adds load to the engine and makes the cooling system work harder. Then turn the heater on full hot and set the fan to high. I know that sounds strange, especially in summer, but your heater core works like a small radiator inside the cabin. Turning the heater on can pull some heat away from the engine. This is not a permanent fix. It is only a temporary move to help reduce heat while you find a safe place to stop. Now pull over as soon as it is safe. Do not keep driving because you are almost home. That is how a small cooling issue becomes a warped cylinder head, blown head gasket, or seized engine. Once you are safely off the road, put the car in park, turn the engine off, turn on your hazard lights, and wait. Do not open the radiator cap. Do not open the coolant reservoir cap if it is pressurized and hot. Do not pour cold water into a boiling hot engine. A hot cooling system is under pressure. If you open it too soon, hot coolant can spray out and burn your skin badly. Let the engine cool down first. Give it at least 30 minutes. If it is extremely hot, steaming, or you just came off the highway, wait longer. While you are waiting, look under the car without touching anything. This is your first real check. Is coolant leaking? Coolant is usually green, orange, pink, red, yellow, or blue depending on the vehicle. It often smells sweet. If you see a colored puddle under the front of the car, that is a strong sign you have a leak. But do not confuse coolant with normal AC condensation. In summer, water dripping under the passenger side is often just condensation from the air conditioner. That water is clear and does not smell sweet. Coolant is different. It has color, smell, and usually leaves a slippery feel. Do not taste it. It is toxic. If there is coolant pouring out, dripping fast, or spraying from somewhere, do not drive the car. That is a tow situation. You cannot keep coolant in the engine, so the engine will overheat again quickly. Now look around the engine bay from a safe distance. Do you see steam? Do you see wet areas around the radiator? Do you see coolant splashed around the hoses? Do you see white residue or crusty dried coolant around hose connections? Do you see a cracked plastic tank on the side of the radiator? Do you see a loose or broken hose? These visual clues matter because overheating is not one problem. It is a symptom. Your job is to find what caused the symptom. After the engine is cooled down, the second check is coolant level. Most modern cars have a plastic coolant reservoir with low and full marks on the side. Look at the reservoir first. If the coolant level is below the low mark, the system may not have enough coolant to control temperature. But here is the important part. Low coolant does not happen for no reason. Coolant does not disappear like gasoline. If the level is low, either there is an external leak, an internal leak, evaporation from a bad cap, or the system was not filled properly before. If the engine is fully cool and your vehicle allows it, you can top off the coolant reservoir to the proper level. Use the correct coolant type for your car. Do not randomly mix coolant colors. Different vehicles require different formulas. If you are stuck on the road and you only need to get to a safe location, distilled water can be used as an emergency temporary top-off, but it should not stay in the system long-term. The correct coolant mix should be restored as soon as possible. If the reservoir is empty, that is more serious. Add coolant only when the engine is cool, then watch carefully. If it immediately leaks out underneath, do not drive. If the reservoir is low but there is no obvious leak, top it off, start the engine, and watch the temperature carefully. Keep the hood open, but keep your hands, clothing, and tools away from belts and fans. Electric fans can turn on suddenly. Now listen and watch. Does the temperature stay normal? Does it climb again? Does the heater blow hot air? That last one is a useful clue. If the heater blows cold air while the engine is overheating, the system may be very low on coolant, or there may be air trapped in the cooling system. The heater needs hot coolant to flow through the heater core. If there is no coolant flow, the cabin heat may stay cold even while the engine is overheating. That is not good. Shut it down and investigate further. The third check is the radiator cap or reservoir cap. This small part is often ignored, but it matters. The cap holds pressure in the cooling system. Pressure raises the boiling point of the coolant. If the cap is weak, damaged, loose, or not sealing correctly, coolant can boil earlier, escape into the overflow, or evaporate slowly. When the engine is fully cool, inspect the cap. Look at the rubber seal. Is it cracked, torn, flattened, missing? Does the cap feel loose? Is there dried coolant around it? A bad cap can cause overheating, especially on hot days, in traffic, or on long drives. This is one of the cheapest parts in the cooling system, but it must match the correct pressure rating for your vehicle. Do not buy a random cap because it fits. The pressure rating matters. If you recently had overheating after someone serviced the coolant, also check whether the cap was left loose. That simple mistake can cause coolant loss and overheating. The fourth check is the cooling fan. This is one of the most common reasons a car overheats in traffic but seems okay on the highway. Here is why. When you are driving fast, air naturally moves through the radiator. That airflow helps cool the coolant. But when you are stopped at a red light or stuck in traffic, there is no natural airflow. That is when the radiator fan must turn on. So if your car overheats at idle, at drive-through lines, in slow traffic, or while parked with AC running, but cools down when you start moving, suspect the cooling fan system. With the engine running and the temperature getting warm, the fan should eventually turn on. On many vehicles, turning on the AC also commands the radiator fan to run. So here is the simple check. Start the car when it is cool. Turn the AC on. Open the hood. Look at the radiator fan area from a safe distance. Is the fan spinning? If the AC is on and the fan never turns on, you may have a bad fan motor, bad relay, blown fuse, bad temperature sensor, wiring issue, or fan control module problem. Do not stick your hand near the fan. Do not try to spin it by hand while the battery is connected. Electric fans can start without warning. If the fan is not working, you can sometimes drive at highway speed without overheating. Because natural airflow helps, but the car can overheat again in traffic. That means it is not a safe city driving situation. Get it repaired. If the fan spins slowly, makes noise, wobbles, or turns on and off strangely, that also needs attention. For older vehicles with mechanical fans, check the fan clutch. A bad fan clutch may not pull enough air through the radiator at low speed. One clue is overheating at idle but better cooling while driving. Another clue is a fan that free spins too easily when the engine is off and cool. But fan clutch testing varies, so do not rely on one sign alone. The fifth check is the thermostat. The thermostat is a valve that controls coolant flow. When the engine is cold, the thermostat stays closed so the engine warms up faster. Once the engine reaches operating temperature, the thermostat opens and allows coolant to flow to the radiator. If the thermostat sticks closed, coolant cannot circulate properly, and the engine can overheat quickly. A stuck thermostat often creates this pattern. The temperature rises faster than normal. The upper radiator hose may stay cooler than expected for too long. The heater may act strange, and then suddenly the temperature spikes. But be careful. Do not grab radiator hoses when the engine is hot. You can burn yourself. When the engine is warming up from cold, a mechanic may carefully monitor hose temperature, scan tool data, and coolant temperature behavior. For a DIY check, the better method is to look at the pattern. Does the car overheat within a few minutes of driving? Does the temperature rise quickly even when coolant level is correct? Does the radiator fan work but the engine still overheats? Does the upper radiator hose stay cool while the engine is getting hot? If yes, the thermostat may be stuck closed. A thermostat is usually not an expensive part, but installation difficulty depends on the vehicle. On some cars it is simple. On others it is buried under hoses or intake parts. If you replace it, use the correct temperature rating and install it in the correct direction. Also replace the gasket or seal and bleed air from the system afterward. Air bleeding matters. A lot of overheating problems happen after a thermostat, radiator, water pump, or hose repair because air gets trapped in the cooling system. Air pockets can stop coolant flow and create false temperature readings. Some vehicles have bleeder screws. Some require a vacuum fill tool. Some require a specific refill procedure. Always follow the correct procedure for your vehicle. The sixth check is the radiator and airflow. The radiator's job is to release heat. If the radiator is clogged inside, blocked outside, damaged, or not getting airflow, the car will overheat. Start with the outside. Look through the front grille. Is the radiator covered with leaves, bugs, dirt, plastic bags, mud, or debris? Are the fins bent? Is anything blocking airflow? This is especially common after road trips, dusty roads, construction zones, or off-road driving. If the outside is dirty, clean it gently. Do not blast the fins with high pressure too close because radiator fins bend easily. Use low pressure water from the back side if possible, and be gentle. Now think about the inside of the radiator. If the coolant has not been changed for a long time, corrosion and deposits can build up. A partially clogged radiator may work fine in mild weather but fail in summer heat, traffic, hills, or highway driving with AC on. Common signs of a clogged or weak radiator include overheating at higher speeds, overheating under load, temperature dropping when the heater is on, or one part of the radiator staying cooler than another because coolant is not flowing evenly. A radiator flush can help if the system is dirty, but it is not magic. If the radiator is physically clogged, corroded, leaking, or restricted, replacement may be the proper repair. Do not pour stop leak into the system as your first solution. Stop leak products may temporarily slow a small leak, but they can also clog heater cores, radiators, and small coolant passages. Use them only as a true emergency last resort, not as routine repair. Now let's talk about belts and the water pump. On many vehicles, the water pump moves coolant through the engine. If the water pump fails, coolant does not circulate properly. The engine overheats even when there is coolant in the system. A bad water pump may leak from the weep hole, make grinding or whining noises, wobble at the pulley, or cause overheating at all speeds. If your car uses a belt-driven water pump, inspect the belt. If the serpentine belt is broken, loose, slipping, or missing, the water pump may not turn. That can cause overheating quickly. Also, if the belt drives the alternator, you may see a battery light at the same time. So if your temperature warning and battery light come on together, pull over immediately. A broken belt may be the reason. Some cars use electric water pumps. These can fail without a visible belt issue. Symptoms may include overheating, warning messages, coolant pump codes, or strange pump noises. Electric pump diagnosis usually needs a scan tool. Now let's cover a very important clue: overheating only in certain situations. If the car overheats only while sitting in traffic, think cooling fan, fan relay, fan fuse, fan control module, or airflow issue. If it overheats mostly on the highway, think low coolant, clogged radiator, weak water pump, stuck thermostat, collapsing hose, or restricted airflow. If it overheats only when the AC is on, think cooling fan performance, condenser blockage, radiator airflow, or extra heat load. If it overheats after a coolant repair, think air trapped in the system, wrong coolant level, loose cap, or a leak at the repair area. If it overheats after driving uphill or towing, think weak cooling system, clogged radiator, low coolant, bad fan clutch, or load-related heat. If it overheats very quickly from a cold start, think thermostat stuck closed, no coolant circulation, major coolant loss, or possible head gasket issue. Now let's talk about the serious signs. A lot of overheating problems are simple, but some signs mean you should stop guessing. If you see thick white smoke from the exhaust, coolant may be entering the combustion chamber. If the oil looks milky, like coffee with cream, coolant may be mixing with oil. If the coolant reservoir bubbles constantly while the engine is running, combustion gases may be entering the cooling system. If the coolant keeps disappearing with no external leak, you may have an internal leak. If the engine overheated badly and now runs rough, misfires, or will not start, do not keep cranking it. If the temperature gauge went deep into the red and stayed there, assume damage is possible until checked. These can point toward a blown head gasket, cracked head, or internal engine problem. At that point, the cheapest move is usually to stop driving and get proper diagnosis. Now here's the roadside decision test. After the engine cools down, check coolant level. If coolant is full, there is no leak, fan works, and the temperature returns to normal, you may be able to drive carefully to a nearby repair shop while watching the gauge closely. But if the temperature starts climbing again, stop immediately. If coolant is low and you can safely top it off, and it holds coolant, you may be able to drive a short distance to a safe place or shop. Keep the heater on, keep AC off, and watch the temperature. But if coolant leaks out quickly, do not drive. If steam returns, do not drive. If the warning light comes back, do not drive. If the fan does not work and you must go through traffic, do not drive. If oil and coolant are mixing, do not drive. If the engine is knocking, shaking, or losing power, do not drive. If the temperature goes into the red, do not drive. This is the part people do not like hearing, but it saves engines. A tow truck is expensive, but an overheated engine repair is much more expensive. Now let's go through the clean diagnostic order one more time, like a mechanic would. Step 1. Confirm the overheating. Is the gauge actually hot? Is there a warning light? Is steam present? Is coolant boiling? Do not assume the gauge is wrong unless you test it. Step 2. Reduce heat immediately. AC off, heater full hot, pull over safely, shut the engine off. Step 3. Wait. Let pressure drop. Let the engine cool. Never open a hot cooling system. Step 4. Look for leaks. Check under the car. Check around the radiator, reservoir, hoses, thermostat housing, water pump area, and heater hoses. Step 5. Check coolant level when cool. If low, top off with correct coolant if available. Use distilled water only as temporary emergency help. Step 6. Check the cap. A weak or loose cap can cause pressure loss and boiling. Step 7. Check fan operation, especially if overheating happens in traffic or with AC on. Step 8. Look at thermostat behavior. Fast overheating with poor circulation can point toward a stuck thermostat. Step 9. Inspect radiator airflow. Blocked fins, debris, bent fins, or internal clogging can reduce cooling. Step 10. Inspect belt and water pump clues. Broken belt, leaks, pulley noise, or no coolant circulation are serious. Now let's talk about prevention, because the best overheating repair is the one you never need. Check coolant level at least once a month, especially before summer road trips. Always check when the engine is cool. Use the correct coolant. Do not mix random coolant types. Replace coolant according to the maintenance schedule. Old coolant loses protection and can allow corrosion. Inspect hoses. A hose that is swollen, cracked, soft, brittle, or leaking should be replaced. Check the radiator cap if it is old or if you see dried coolant around it. Make sure the cooling fans work before summer heat hits. Keep the front of the radiator and condenser clean. Watch for small puddles. A tiny leak today can become a roadside breakdown next month. Do not ignore a sweet smell after driving. Do not ignore the heater suddenly blowing cold when the engine is hot. Do not ignore a temperature gauge that moves higher than normal, even if it comes back down. Your car usually gives warnings before it fails. The problem is most people wait until the warning becomes smoke. And here is the honest mechanic truth. Overheating is not a repair by itself. It is a symptom. The solution is not add coolant every week. The solution is finding why the system lost coolant, pressure, airflow, or circulation. So before you pay for a major repair, check the basics. Coolant level, leaks, cap, fan, thermostat, radiator, belt, water pump. Those checks can save you from replacing parts blindly. But also do not be cheap in the wrong moment. If the car is truly overheating, shut it down. Do not try to make it home. That one decision can be the difference between a $20 hose and a $3,000 engine job. So here's the final simple rule. If the temperature is slightly high and you catch it early, reduce load, pull over, cool it down, and inspect. If there is steam, coolant loss, red warning light, or the gauge keeps climbing, stop driving. If you find a simple issue like low coolant and no active leak, top it off safely and drive only if temperature stays normal. If the problem repeats, get it diagnosed. That is how you handle an overheating car the right way. No panic, no fake hacks, no guessing. Just step-by-step checks that tell you whether you have a simple cooling issue or a serious engine risk problem. If this helped you understand what to check before calling a tow truck, save this video because the worst time to learn this is when your temperature gauge is already in the red on the side of the road. Do like, share, and subscribe for more videos.